Now on to the fourth category of passing. Looking first at James Harden, we can see he is a truly excellent passer. Coming into the league as a solidified score-first shooting guard, it truly is incredible that he has transitioned to point guard and been able to thrive so well. After leaving OKC for Houston, JH took on more ball handling responsibilities and also eventually switched to point guard. His assists, in turn, have gone up because of this, but he is still a great passer nonetheless. This past year with the Rockets, he averaged 7.5 assists per game, while his career average is at 6.2. Since joining the league, James Harden's assists have gone up drastically, starting out as a low 1.8 per game his rookie year to as high as 11.2 in 2017. Even though his assist career average isn't phenomenal, we all know the genius passer that James Harden is due to the fact that he's had a season averaging 11 assists a game, one season of 8 per game, and 3 seasons averaging 7 or more assists a game. What makes it even more impressive, however, is that this past season he put up 36 points a night and still averaged 7.5 assists per game, while still playing on the court with another phenomenal passer in CP. Even though his career average for assists isn't extremely high, we all know that he is one of the best at passing the rock in the game today. I am giving James Harden an 8.5 for passing because he truly is a man who can get dimes. Moving on to PG, there's not much to say here. He averaged 4.1 assists with OKC, and his career average is 3.3 a night. Considering he is a small forward, 3 assists for a career and even averaging 4 per game last season is better than what first meets the eye. He has always been a primary scoring option for the teams he's played on, so just over 3 a night is not all that bad. There's not much else really to say here for PG. He is simply an above average passer for his position, so I'm giving him a 5 for passing. The fifth category is efficiency. Now, before writing the script for this video, I was actually considering lumping the two categories of scoring and efficiency into one, essentially because they both directly relate to one another, so I could have mentioned them in the same sentence without having to go out of context. However, I believe efficiency is much more important than people realize. You look at the Monte Ellises, the Russell Westbrooks, and even the Kobe Bryants of the world, and you see that their efficiencies really held them back in terms of how many points they could have scored. If I lumped efficiency with scoring in the same category, even if I did take both into consideration of the ranking, it would have diminished the true value of what efficiency really is and how much it really can define how good a player is at scoring. Simply put, if I put them together, a player with poor efficiency could get away with scoring poorly efficiency-wise while not being dinged accordingly. So this is why I'm keeping them as separate categories, but now onto the rankings. If you saw my field goal percentage video, you saw that even though James Harden only had a field goal percentage of 44%, he had a true shooting percentage of 61%, which was 19th in the league last year. For a career, his true shooting percentage is almost the same at a mind-blowing 60.9%, which is 13th in league history. Scoring 36 points per game on that high of efficiency and also having a career average of 13th all time is absolutely incredible, utterly amazing. Once again, this is exactly why he is one of the greatest scorers of not only our generation, but of all time. He not only scores in high volume, but he also does it at a tremendously efficient rate. Other than that, there's nothing much else to say here. I'm giving James Harden a 9.5 for efficiency because he is simply an efficient scoring machine. Now to PG. Last season with OKC, he had a true shooting percentage of 58%, which was 46th in the league last year. He has a true shooting percentage of 56%, which is 116th all time. That is not amazing efficiency, and that will hurt him a bit, at least compared to James Harden. He's less efficient as average NBA players such as George Hill, Enes Kanter, and Danilo Gallinari. Again, not amazing efficiency here, but he is still above average in this category, which is not bad in the slightest. We can also say here for PG that his efficiency isn't as high as it could be due to the fact that he takes a lot of last-second shots because of him always being the first scoring option. Everything said, I'm giving PG a score of 7 in this category because he is good efficiency-wise, but not great by any means. The sixth category is leadership. Since we're halfway into the rankings here, I'm going to switch it up and now start with PG. Now it's safe to say for Paul George that he has been a pretty great leader for both the teams he's been on. In his Indiana days, he established himself as a clear-cut leader by simply scoring the most points and by simply also being their first option. They did have another all-star in Roy Hibbert, but for the most part, PG was always their established leader, and they always turned to PG for the last-second shot or simply whenever they needed a bucket. In OKC, even with a heavy ball-dominant point guard in Russell Westbrook averaging an insane triple-double both years he was there, PG still was able to establish himself as the leader on OKC. Whether that was PG stepping up verbally to the team or Russ simply willing to take a back seat is unknown in this case. However, we know that PG has been the leader of both the teams that he's played on. He has not shown many glimpses of being a verbal leader, but he has always been the first scoring option both the teams he's been on and can lead his teams that way. All in all, I'm giving PG a 7 for leadership because he has proven that he is willing and able to lead his teams through his scoring abilities. Now to James Harden. Concerning leadership, James Harden is not too shabby either. He is pretty much the same in terms of being a leader of the teams he's been on due to the fact that he scores the most points and can lead his teams through scoring. Now know that on OKC, James Harden was not the leader there. In fact, he was only the third scoring option. He was actually fairly important to their team, but not as important as their team thought, at least, as they traded him away after just playing 3 seasons in OKC. But once he got to Houston, he has always been the clear-cut leader of their team due to his scoring abilities. Similar to PG, he has not shown any out-of-the-ordinary ability to verbally lead his teams, but nonetheless, he is a good leader, everything considered. Due to the fact he was not a great leader in OKC, I'm giving JH a slightly less 6.5 for this category because Paul George has always been the leader of the teams he's been on so far. The next category is underrated abilities. First with PG, I can honestly say there's not too many things to say here for him, but one thing that I really think that people overlook in him is his overall ability to play as a two-way player in the league or as a 3-and-D player, whichever one you want to call it. PG almost always guards the opposing team's best player on the defensive end, and yet has always been the number 1 scoring option for the teams he's been on. You have to consider the amount of exertion that must put on him. Being able to exert a lot of energy to defend an amazing player on one end and then go to the other end and put up 28 points per game is actually pretty crazy if you ask me. We've seen players in the league such as James Harden, Steph Curry, and LeBron put up similar scoring numbers to PG, but they do not always, if ever at all, guard the opposing team's best player, which simply means they can put much more of their effort into their scoring. But with PG, that level of exertion on both ends of the floor is really special and incredible if you ask me, so I'm giving PG a score of 7 in underrated abilities simply off of that one thing. Now to James Harden. One thing that goes way under the radar for him is his efficiency. Yes, this was just one of the last categories, and I'm sure at this point you're all done with me trying to nail in the coffin how efficient James Harden is, but you do have to realize the importance of efficiency, especially in today's modern era of pace and space. His efficiency is also heavily underrated due to the fact that people may see his field goal percentage of 44% and immediately think to themselves that he is not efficient, but he is. His efficiency is what has allowed him to score so many points without having an out-of-this-world usage rate, especially for a guy that has the ball in his hands as much as he does. Everything said, I'm giving James Harden a 6 in underrated abilities because yes, people do not see how important efficiency is, but PG is simply more overlooked with him being a 3-and-D player and how special that truly is. The 8th category is accolades, and I will start with PG. With 9 total seasons played, Paul George is a 6-time NBA All-Star, a 1-time member of the All-NBA First Team, a 4-time member of the All-NBA Third Team, was the steals leader in 2019, was the most improved player in 2013, was a member of the second team for the All-Rookie team in 2011, a 2-time member of the All-NBA Defensive First Team, and a 2-time member of the All-NBA Defensive Second Team. That is a very well-balanced resume, getting All-NBA teams, improvement awards, and also defensive awards. He doesn't have an MVP, at least not yet, but he was certainly in the race for it this past year. Overall, at this point in his career, his resume is looking pretty solid, so I'm giving PG an 8 in accomplishments. Now to James Harden. With 10 total seasons played thus far, James Harden was a 1-time NBA MVP, being 2018, a 7-time NBA All-Star, a 5-time member of the All-NBA First Team, a 1-time member of the All-NBA Third Team, was the NBA Sixth Man of the Year in 2012, was a 2-time NBA scoring champion, was the NBA assist leader in 2017, and was a member of the Rookie Second Team in 2010. Concerning accolades, James Harden is better as a whole compared to PG. While he doesn't have any defensive accomplishments, what puts him above PG in my opinion is the fact that he has an MVP award and 2 scoring titles under his belt, which do bolster him greatly. He also has a pretty balanced resume as well, just simply missing some defensive awards. All in all, I'm giving James Harden a 9 in accolades.